Hey there, my fellow survivors of the wasteland, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Synergy, Episode 2, Tutorial Part 2. So here is the modules it was referring to. The kitchen can make pod stews out of watery pods, vegetables, and clean water. Mushroom soup out of mushrooms and clean water. Rough oatmeal out of seeds and water. Ashy pancakes out of ash kernels and water. Or bulb confit out of carbon bulbs and resin. I think pod stew is probably the easiest for me to do because I have watery pods and vegetables as resources to be collected on this map tile. If I wanted to, I could also do mushroom soup, but the mushrooms tend to be over in the east, so they're a little bit harder to obtain in mass. And then the ashy kernels I could do from the cinder sprouts, but that would require me trimming them, which could be done as well. So the option's yours. The ashy pancakes require a lot more clean water than the pod stews, so it would be a little bit harder to produce the clean water in times of drought for the ashy pancakes, which is why I'm going with the watery pods and vegetables. Oh, I built 2 kitchens. Alright, let's destroy that one. That was an accident. Meant to build the forge. And then we're running into the situation where my pickers' cabins are not picking the cabbage shrubs that I want them to. So what I'm doing is I'm removing the Diluvian bushes that are furthest from the picker's cabin so that they spend less time traveling and more time picking. And that way they're going to get more of the cabbage shrubs as a result, which we should see here in a second. All right, last report. Giant fungus. Also, it's worth noting that the adjectives for the plants here, like decorative and shady, have meaning. So like cabbage shrubs, when they say it's smelly, it probably is, right? And we have some cabbage shrubs near our house here, so maybe the people don't want to live near there. So there's also effects like that to note. Another one is whether it's invasive or not. So this giant fungus, for instance, is an invasive and resilient plant. And being invasive, it will spread more virulently than if it was not invasive. So some plants don't spread very fast. Some plants spread and will kill other plants if not controlled. Giant fungus, fortunately, is not the type of invasive plant that really kills other plants, but there are some other plants that that if you don't control, it will kill the other plants around it. I'm also going to rip out these plants here, because these plants are doing so poorly that they're withering and dying, and I might as well yield resources from them. So here is the forge, and there's different recipes for the forge as well. So either I can make tools out of water and wood, or make tools out of stone and water. And I'm going to do stone and water because I don't have a lot of branches for the wooden ones. Let's just fill the forge and kitchen. So now the kitchen's working on simple dishes, made pot stew simple dishes, and the forge is working on tools. Cinder sprouts are also invasive? That is true. There's other factors for invasiveness, like what habitats they like. So cinder sprouts, I believe, tend to like drier, hotter areas, which is not necessarily where your fruit grows. Meaning that the cinder sprouts are invasive, but they might not encroach the same terrain that your food-yielding crops want to thrive upon. And the tutorial will get far more into that later on, too. Let's build an extra house. Actually, 2 of them. Why not? And then we'll rip up the rest of the boreal rock. And speed time up. So soon the seller will start stockpiling the simple dishes that we have, so that people around the homes, yeah, as you can see, the little food alerts are now missing from the homes because there's enough food in the food cellar to supply food to the homes around it. And we got our first batch of tools. I am being warned that I don't have enough carriers. I'm going to reduce the amount of people working in the forge so that we have more carriers. Because without carriers, for like a purification basin, what will end up happening is it will fill full of like either clean water or not have enough polluted water that it will stop work entirely. So you need to balance the amount of carriers that you have, which is seen up here. So this says that I have 10 that are assigned to work spots, and 4 that are not, that can act as builders or carriers. So like 2 people at work are now currently builders, and the last 2 are carriers. And then that number will go to from 12 and 2 to 10 and 4 once the stone house is complete. Okay, we almost have all the simple dishes we need, so we're waiting on vegetables. So one way to speed this up is for me to prioritize the cabbage shrubs by clicking on them and just hitting P, which is the priority. And then the pickers' cabins will pick those cabbage shrubs if they're ripe before anything else, which will allow us to then get the simple dishes needed, which just got done. We have enough to survive, at least for now. Still, mere survival won't keep the citizens motivated, and many are already moaning. What now? Why toil and work every day just to get a ration of food and a sip of water? To keep the population motivated and allow the community to live again, it's high time to think of this camp as a real city. We must plan and build common living spaces dedicated to the sociability and leisure. You now know how to provide your citizens with food and clean water. Their basic needs are therefore activated. With no food or clean water, they might suffer from malnutrition or dehydration. If this persists, they may develop a weakening sickness or even die from hunger or thirst. When a citizen is suffering, their moving and working speeds are reduced. Sickness can be treated at the infirmary. If the citizen is infected with some sickness for a second time, it progresses into something more serious that requires urgent treatment to avoid the patient's death. So, for instance, if you pick a gourd and get wounded, and then continue picking gourds, you will then get critically wounded. So it's important to make sure that dehydrated people don't become re-dehydrated, or starving people don't become re-starvated, or they'll die, essentially. So citizens can pass away in various manners: starvation, thirst, serious untreated illnesses, or lost or missing during expeditions. Once you have guaranteed your citizens' survival, it is time to conceive a city with architecture that makes sense and that is pleasant to live in. Building a square allows you to start forming a district. There are several squares and various district types per square, each having its own specifics. So there are cultural squares, market squares, and botanical squares. Build a cultural square, complete a social district, and reach a district score of 200. So, the cultural square is this thing. I'm going to place it here which means I'm also going to rip out some of these cabbage shrubs. Additionally, these cabbage shrubs are stinky, so like people don't want to live around them anyway. One thing I could do to be able to help my kitchen keep up with demands is to run a path out this way to this cabbage shrub patch, to plop another picker's cabin at the end of it, and to have the second picker's cabin pick the cabbage shrubs that are out east to supplement, because I'm removing some cabbage shrubs from the west. And you can see that I don't have enough vegetables for the pod stew. I can always switch over like mushroom soup for now, because I did pick some of the mushrooms that are out this way. I'm also going to rip out the sunshade tree and the riverbank fingers, because I want to put the cultural square here. There we go. And if you're wondering, the removal of that tree hasn't caused my shade to get ruined. The sunshade tree sphere of influence is really wide, so you'd have to cut a lot of trees to make a dent into that. Alright, the second picker's cabin is ready. So if we... yeah, let's not trim, let's pick. So if we just trimmed the cabbage shrubs, we wouldn't get the plant waste, which might be useful later on. So the districts are what mostly influences the score and prosperity. The more districts you build, and the more each individual district fulfills the citizens' needs, the higher your score goes. That's the main driver of score. So here, this current cultural square is a historical district, which is a large district. But the tutorial wants me to build a social one, which is smaller. And then the creative district is medium. So all three of these districts are cultural in nature, but provide different bonuses. So the historical district is the largest, but is the least effective in driving up your sort of cultural score. But the tutorial wants me to build a social district, which is for citizen well-being and happiness, dedicated to encouraging leisure time and community gatherings. So in order to formally build a cultural district, it needs a canteen and 3 stone houses nearby. And then it has these other scores down here, and my head's kind of in the way, so let me hide myself for just 1 second here. So if it has a kitchen within its sphere of influence, it's another 100 points. If it has a T-bar, it's 100 points. If it has sun awnings or a well, it's 50 points each, or 50 points total. And so for instance, this cultural square is within range of at least 8 sunshade trees, so I'm gaining plus 20 to the potential score. Now the reason that isn't counting right now is because I'm missing a canteen. Without a canteen, none of these points matter. And then it is reduced if they're around cabbage shrubs and riverbank fingers. So I also might want to remove all the riverbank fingers and cabbage shrubs around this cultural square, as they are hurting my score. Same with carpentry, foundries, forges, sand factories, industry. So every district has its own needs and demands. But obviously the first thing that we're going to want to do here is to set up a canteen, because that's That's the bare minimum to even make this a social district in the first place. And then I'll go ahead and rip out the cabbage shrubs that are within the sphere of influence and the riverbank fingers so that we can remove everything that is smelly within the range. Can districts mix? Yes, they can overlap. Sort of. I'll get into that more in the, not in the tutorial. So other things this district wants. It does want a kitchen within its sphere of influence, so it might be worth relocating our kitchen from where it was to within the district. So I'm going to stick the kitchen here so that it is within the range of the district, deleting my old kitchen in the process. So that's a free 100 points once done. Is the district score limited to 900? Yes, but also there's other ways to gain points as well. So you have district development, diversity bonuses for different types of districts, whether or not you have any sick citizens or dead citizens, homelessness, so on and so forth. And then also just the fulfillment, the well-being. So each home can add points as well for having well-being, social culture, and knowledge within the district. So there's a lot of different like levers and gauges for total score, which is worth noting. It's not just like do what the district wants and that's all you need to do. All right, I have, let's see, 82 vegetables. I think what I'll do is I'll cook up the rest of the mushroom fungus that I have and then go back to vegetables. So I'll do mushroom soup until we run out of mushroom. So here's the canteen. And that was enough to give me a 200-point district immediately. Like that. At the start of each cycle, children spawn in houses as long as the conditions allow for it. For a child to spawn in a house, they have to have access to food and water, an appropriate temperature, an adult, and available spot. Although very low at the start, the chances of a child spawning increase depending on the housing satisfaction. Children don't work, but and it will take them an entire cycle to become adults. Building many houses is the best way to increase the city's number of citizens. Note, make sure you have everything to meet their needs, because obviously a growing population means more food and water needs. Your citizens' well-being is closely related to the quality of their housing. Beyond the basic needs, housing quality is assessed according to its access to well-being, social interactions, cultural spaces, and places of knowledge. Certain buildings apply access scores to all cells within their range. For instance, schools apply an access bonus to knowledge around it. In this tutorial, we will focus solely on access to well-being. The well-being score depends on proximity to vegetation, the presence of water holes, shadow surface. Consult the well-being heat map to see the most suitable places. Consult building details in the construction menu to see which have an impact on well-being, then build these. So have a house with a well-being of at least 10, which we already have, because the well-being of our starter houses here are already pretty high. Assign 4 citizens to a scent garden and build a scent garden. Let's put it... I'll put it here. So you can see the houses here don't have any access to knowledge because I have no one working in the field laboratory, but the well-being is decent because of the proximity to the canteen and social. So these are all driving up the factors. The one thing I didn't look at is whether or not my social district wants to have a scent garden. No, it doesn't. Okay, so that doesn't matter. I'm out of mushrooms for the soup, so go back to pod stews, but I don't need a lot of food right now. We have a lot of simple dishes stockpiled, so I'm going to reduce the workload in the kitchen down to one person. It's also worth noting that you can assign one extra person to the kitchen because it's within range of the canteen. So here is the range of the canteen, and because the canteen and the kitchen overlap with one another, the kitchen can have up to 4 people working. And I could get a 5th if it was in a crafting district, which it isn't. So there's a lot of proximity bonuses that you can sort of optimize if you're looking to have efficient buildings. So scent gardens add well-being and social within their range. It's also worth noting that depending on how many people work in the building, it extends the range. So one person has a range this big. 4 people will cover all the homes. And because the tutorial says have 4 people working them, I built it in such a way that it will cover all the homes. So there we go. Scent Garden is now covering all the homes available. The citizens have noticed a strange phenomenon, a luminous dot blinking chaotically, and only visible at night. They fear it could be a distress signal. Numerous volunteers have asked to investigate it and to organize a rescue operation if need be. Let's set up some explorers and equip them for the trip. 2 systems shape the game's progression by introducing new possibilities: research and exploration. At the start of the game, most buildings are not accessible and must be discovered through research. Research can also unlock effects for buildings, such as bonuses or new tasks. Research is separated into 2 trees, each with a distinct theme. Purple is technological research, like tools and extraction and refining. And then teal is cultural research, social, well-being, and food. Exploring the world provides the opportunity to make important discoveries. In addition to finding resources and welcoming new citizens, explorers can also discover new plants to integrate into their environment, along with precious knowledge that can be found in tablets. However, expeditions are both costly and risky. Citizens sent on exploration will have to make some difficult and potentially dangerous decisions. So build a research center, unlock exploration missions, build an explorer's hut, and examine the source of the chaotic blinking light. So here is the research center. And just like the other buildings, it has a sphere of influence for where it benefits the citizens, so I'm going to build it around the homes for knowledge bonuses. It doesn't really need roads, nor does the scent garden, because they're not production facilities that require a lot of roads or anything like that. But I'm going to add them in anyway. And building some more houses to accommodate growing population. So here, as you can see, the homes are pretty satisfied. Well-being is quite high. Social is very high. So the reason why social bar is higher than well-being, culture, and knowledge is because it's within a social district. So the social district increases the maximum potential social for the houses within. So instead of a maximum of 20, it could be a maximum of 25. with the research center built, the technological research option is open on the left here. And here is the research tree. So again, technological ones are purple, and then cultural ones are teal. And we want to get the exploration missions unlocked, which all it requires is having built a research center. A lot of the upgrades will require things like tools or composites or other advanced materials. But for this, it's just time, and that is it. And then the people working in this research center once they're working, will increase the knowledge fulfillment of the houses around it, as you'll see in a minute. Once they actually start researching. So there we go. Hasn't moved much, but it has moved. I'm also going to build a carrier station, if I can remember where it is. Oh, that actually might not be offered in the... oh no, here it is. The assignment tower. The assignment tower is allows for people to be dedicated carriers, and it increases their carrier capacity, which helps to reduce the amount of transportation tasks, so that like people coming out to collect vegetables and rotten resources from this picker's cabin can make fewer trips because they can hold more. Alright, I have a lot of clean water, so I'm going to reduce the amount of people working in the purification basin. I'm going to reduce the amount of pickers in the picker cabin, because I have a lot of food, basic foodstuffs. I'm going to do... and then put 2 people working in the assignment tower, or no, maybe 4 working in the assignment tower, so that they can haul better, adjusting the workforce. We do have a dry season on the horizon. So preparing for the dry season, it's really useful to stockpile a lot of clean water. So if you take a look, my citizens require 117 clean water per cycle, and I have 408 stockpiled, so we have enough to last the entire dry season. So that isn't much of a worry. The Explorer's Hut will be done in 5 days. The social district also benefits from tables, benches, and street lamps. So I'm going to build a bench here, and a bench, some smaller benches here. Around these sunshade trees, and that should drive up the district score. And once they're built, you'll be able to see the progress on this meter. So, one of the benches, 2 of the benches, a table, and my district store is going up as a result. Alright, done. I've hit the maximum. And now the social score of my district is pretty high. You know, the social benefits for the citizens living in this district are quite comfortable. which drives up children a lot, because the nicer it is, the more children are likely. The exploration, or explorer's hut, is almost done. I'm going to set up another picker's cabin because I am nearly out of bark and branches, and it would be good to start collecting that as well. Exploration missions are done. Let's see if there's other tech that I could grab. Arboriculture. No, I'm actually out of... Let's see. Let's get better yield from picking vegetables. Why not? Dedicate some tools for improving our picker's picking ability for veggies. Because we have a lot more watery paws than vegetables. And then the game wants me to build an explorer's hut so that we can get out to the blinking light. So I am out of bark at the moment, so I'm going to need to collect some bark before actually building that explorer's hut. So there's different sources of bark. I could cut down sunshade trees. That would be quick and dirty way to do it. So because this is a tutorial, I'll cut like 3 trees down. But a renewable source would be picking the cinder sprouts. Because these cinder sprouts grow excess bark that can be picked off of them. Score is pretty good. Alright, this picker's cabin will hire 1 person picking, and they're just going to collect the bark. I'll put 2. And there's an explorer's hut. It doesn't have a lot of adjacency bonuses, so you can build it kind of far away from your district centers so they don't take up room. So some other parts of the UI elements. Up here you can have, this is sort of a general satisfaction rating for your citizens. So social well-being are mostly being met, whereas culture and knowledge not so much at all. It doesn't, you're not really given the ability to fulfill those that highly in the tutorial, so it's not worth trying to min-max. And then the thing that researches cultural advancements is the Hall of Wisdom, which is separate from the Research Center. So the Research Center is for technological advancements, and the Hall of Wisdom is for cultural ones. Which is pretty different than most other games, which don't make the distinction between the 2 types. This is almost done. My water has been dropping, so it might be worth re-employing people working on collecting for water heading into the dry season. So with the Explorer's Hut built, we're given another option, which is the world map. So this is the world map, and we want to be heading towards the chaotic blinking light. So we have got a dune, a strange glow, and an oasis, and also the cave, which is the source of the chaotic blinking light, which is why it's marked in red. I need 4 citizens at the very least available to search, and then we're going to deploy them out with food and water. So I need to free up someone to be heading towards the chaotic blinking light. Oh, that person immediately got employed somewhere else. So let's see, reduce the amount of people working in the research center. That should do it. And send them out. If you go over the minimum of 4, your expedition will be a little bit faster. And then sometimes your expedition you'll end up where you have a certain amount of people, explorers, that die. So going over the population maximum can ensure that at least some of the explorers will survive. I usually find myself just setting the bare minimum. I haven't found that there's tons of advantages to send way more than you need to. So here is the exploration team traveling out to the cave, which is also the source of the strange light. In the bed of what had probably been a strong stream long ago, the explorers follow the luminous signal they spotted from their city, and that leads them to a cave entrance. Although the cold coming out of the cave appeals to the thirsty travelers, it forebodes something strange. Once they enter the cave's narrow entrance, their path stops, closed off by a rectangular slab. The interstices on both sides are lit in a rather chaotic way. The rays of light seem to persist in the air and on the dust. What could this slab be hiding? So, on almost every single expedition, you're given some choices. We can either force the opening or use some water to discover a passage. I'm going to do that. The explorers freeze and hold their breath, listening to the water seeping into the cracks and cavities of the cave's ground. Using echoes to guide their actions, they discover a side passage. The tunnel has obviously been dug by human hands. Some tools lie on the ground, apparently abandoned by their owners. The party collects them before carrying on their exploration. So, as a result of the choices we've made, we've gained protective gear and tools. There is a vortex in the middle of the room, with a glow that provokes headaches. A metallic contraption forms a perimeter around the whirlwind, but it's hard to guess its use as it seems to be out of order. One of the explorers introduces a tool into the vortex by fixing it to a rope, and the item comes back unharmed. She asks for permission to explore the inside of the vortex. I will allow an explorer to enter the vortex. The explorer comes out of the vortex, her face and body marked with blue symbols found on the tablets. She seems suddenly filled with new wisdom. I gained a tablet from that exploration. Our exploration party came back safe and sound from their quest to find the source of the strange light. However, we won't always be that lucky. We live in a dangerous and largely misunderstood world. Exploring it will require time and precious resources, but will also involve taking some lethal risks. Once we recover our strength, we'll start exploring nearby areas, and maybe try to understand the strange phenomena hiding in the desert. The city prosperity allows you to show your city's sustainability and well-being as it faces the challenges of the outside world. This score is refreshed every day. It is the sum of all district scores with a bonus for each district type, and all housing scores. A penalty is then applied according to the number of citizens who are homeless, sick, or dead. This score therefore reflects your city's global resilience, which is up here. The community, which seemed doomed not so long ago, is thriving again. Despite all its hazards, the world is no longer seen as just a menace. It is also viewed as an open door. Still, everyone is aware that at the slightest sign of complacency, our infrastructure could become overwhelmed by the unexpected, and our community's growing demands. We must improve our understanding of the natural world to predict it, despite unpredictability. Unfortunately, we are not the only ones facing this challenge. A new group is aiming to recreate bonds between isolated camps and share humanity's knowledge. We need to follow in their footsteps. So that was the tutorial. 35 people, nobody died. I did it in 3 cycles in 17 days. The goal, of course, was to do it within 40 cycles, so like no problem at all. And I am going to jump into the first scenario, which this segues into. Thank you for tuning in to Synergy, which originally streamed live on Twitch June 18th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon and patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow city survivors.